Hey there, everybody. It's Jenny Clark with Solvability, and we're having a great time with GovCon Summit today. We have Joshua Frank with RSM Federal, who is the guru, the art and science of government sales. And if there's one thing you need to know about Josh, he's somebody that I met at a conference. I sat in on a session because usually I just sit around in the lobby and drink Diet Cokes and wait for people to come by. But that day I was like, nobody's out here. I'm going to wander into a room, and I happen to wander into Josh's session. And, I'm sitting at the back playing with my computer, checking my phone, playing on LinkedIn. And he starts talking about stuff. I'm like, wait, he's got a totally different way of thinking. I'm going to sit through this whole thing. And we talked after, and here we are today. So, Josh, how about you just take it away, talking to people about what they need to do for winning strategies and proven best practices for government prospecting.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to first make sure, Jenny, you can hear my voice and see my slide.
I totally can.
Awesome. So thank you, everyone, for spending the end of your day with us here at GovCon Summit. As Jenny indicated, we're going to be talking about prospecting. And for those of you who don't know me, have never heard of me, I run RSM Federal. Mike and I run RSM Federal. So if you were in the last session, Mike and I are a tandem, and we both have our strengths and we work very well together. I also run a B2G company. Mike was talking about, we don't just help other companies sell to the government. We're government contractors, right? I mean, we've won 5 contracts in the last 4 months on the veteran warehouse side. I'm a professional speaker. I am an author. I'm a business coach. I've been in the market for a long time. I'm former Army. I was an Intel weenie. Yes, it's an oxymoron, but all the same, I did that for about a decade, and then I broke my back jumping out of an airplane. Huge small business advocate. Okay. I'm chairman of the board for the Veterans Advocacy Foundation. That's that SBA funded organization, the VBOC in the Midwest. And then I work with SBA and I do other entrepreneurial things. My specialty are tactics and strategies. Okay. Tactics and strategies. So it's not simply, everybody will tell you what to do, but how do you apply it? That's my focus. Okay. So before I get started, I normally start with these slides, which is in fiscal year 2020, right? There were about 15,000 companies that had a contract vehicle called GSA schedule. By the way, I don't know if you call it the social, but after this session, there's going to be a discussion about contract vehicles, for the next hour. There's 1,000 contract vehicles. Okay. There's a ton of them. I'm just picking this one. GSA schedules, only about 10% of all government buys are on schedule or are through a schedule. So a GSA schedule is just a contract vehicle. It's like it opens a door, it authorizes you to sell through this mechanism. Well, if you look at FY 2020, which is fairly similar to other years before it, only 50% of the companies with schedules actually hit their numbers. Okay. Only 50%. 42% had goose eggs, didn't make a penny. Okay. So if half of companies with GSA schedules, just one of many contract vehicles, this is a microcosm of the overall market. So much for low-hanging fruit and government being easy. Okay. As you all know, once you register in SAM, you get bombarded by companies that want your money. Wow, we can help you win a contract. It's easy peasy. If you can't tell, I'm from the Midwest, cool beans, easy peasy. But anyway, the reason why 50% of these companies fail, it's not because of what they sell. Okay. In general, 50% of all companies that try to sell to the government fail. That means 50% of 8As fail. 50% of small businesses fail. 50% of woman-owned, fail. Same across all the other socioeconomic statuses. So if it's not because of what they sell, what is it? Why do 50% fail? Now, before I answer that question, let me give you another little case study. And that is two identical companies, right? Both sell the exact same product or service. The owners, same education level, high school, college, whatever. They get help from the same mentors or coaches or small business counselors, all same conferences, same webinars, same books. Everything is the same. They've all been told the same thing. One company wins 3.5 million and the other company doesn't make a penny. So why do half of all companies fail? Why do two companies that learn the same thing, one succeeds, one doesn't? Because it's not what you learn. Okay. It is, in the last session, Mike was talking about the arts and the science of government sales. That's RSM Federal. That's our company. That's our tagline. The art is how you apply it. The science is what you're told. The art is how you do it. Okay. Which is absolutely critical for prospecting and sales. Now, if I were to throw out there, and you can all yell at your computer screens, why do companies win contracts? Just whatever comes to mind, throw it out. And the odds are, at least when I'm speaking in front of a national audience, these are the core 8, right? Well, it's our past performance, it's our value, it's our quality, it's our status. But what's the number one reason? The absolute number one reason that companies win contracts is because of their perceived value. Okay. Absolutely not that you're small, woman-owned, minority or socially disadvantaged, woman, veteran, service disabled, or hub zone. Okay. So the value of your company is the value that your products and services provide to your clients. And if you ever think you're going to win a contract because you are veteran, woman, 8A, minority, etc., no, that's not true. We'll talk a little bit more on that. So all of that just to get started today. Expectations, basic to intermediate content. I'll sprinkle some advanced in. It's 1 hour and it's a lot of information and I'm going to move very fast. If you have questions at the end, we'll try to get to them all. If not, I'll give you my email. Watch it on demand again, but I'm going to move really fast because there's a lot of stuff I want to cover. Okay. I'm skipping the agenda because we're going to talk about it anyway. So federal budget. Now, most companies are like, yeah, I know that there's a lot of money, but I want to make a point. So first of all, if you look at defense, DOD, Department of Defense, is appropriated more money, given more money by Congress than all the federal agencies combined. That's crazy, right? That's why DOD is normally a core target for a lot of small companies. Now, that doesn't include the mandatory of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, which actually sort of falls within, like HHS and Social Security Administration. But if you look at the entitlement my God, entitlements this is a soapbox for me. Twice is what we're funding the rest of the government at. It's crazy. But anyway, so $4.4 trillion is going to be spent this year in the government. Now, you look at that $4.4 trillion, and I ask myself, how much of this is required to go to small business? Now, if you're 8A woman, any of the statuses, that falls within that 23%. Okay. That falls within that 23%. That's not extra. So when you see 23% small business, that includes woman, minority, veteran, etc. Okay. But when you look at that number, it's $319 billion. So there is enough money here for all of us. The reason I'm giving you this, the so what, is that there is so much money out there. Your top priority is simply, how do you properly engage? Okay. That's the how do you apply? If you learn to apply what you have been told, you'll be in that 50% that wins. If you don't properly apply what you've learned through the necessary tactic strategies, we'll talk some of those today, then you're not. Don't listen to folks out there that go, oh, the government is screwing small business, or they're doing this, doing that. Don't listen to the complainers. Okay. And definitely don't team with them. Okay. So changes, budget cuts, all of the changes to small business regulations, they really don't mean much if you don't know how to apply. Okay. So it's not what you've learned, it's how you apply it. So there are 6 common challenges. Let's jump into the prospecting piece. There are 6 common challenges that companies face when trying to sell to the government, especially smalls. Identify who buys what you sell, how much they buy, and how often they buy it. That's called propensity. The propensity of the government to buy what you sell. So, who buys, how much, how often? I'm going to show you today the system you need to access in order to figure that out for the products or the services you sell. Bidding without information or intelligence. In general, 80% of your time should be focused pre-acquisition. I'll be talking about that again here in a minute. But if all you're doing is going to beta.sam, if you have a GSA schedule, you're going to eBuy, right? Only for those that have schedules. But if you go to or if you have a bid matching system, you go to your local PTAC, you get it for free, or you pay for one of the 1,000 other systems out there, you're not going to win a lot if that's your primary focus. Okay? Because you got to have information and intelligence that's not in the market. We're going to be talking about that today. Bidding without knowing the prospect. Mike just hammered on that, 20, 30 minutes ago. You got to build relationships, right? You got to make calls. You got to go visit them. I'll talk more about how you get face-to-face with them in a little bit. Bidding without knowing the competition. Let me tell you, any of the companies that you believe are your competition, I can tell you exactly where they are in the market, what kind of contracts they have, if they've won any contracts, how many other companies bid on those contracts that they won. There's over 100 data fields of great information. If you don't know your competition, I'm going to show you the system again here in a minute that you can look them up. Okay. Bidding without doing upfront work. That's sort of all of this combined, and not tailoring your marketing collateral. When I say not tailoring your marketing collateral, I'm talking about not your website, but your capability statement. And when I speak, I go off on tangents and I go down rabbit holes. I'll be very forthcoming. It annoys the hell out of some people. Other people love it. You'll have to pick on your own. But let me go down the rabbit hole. When it comes to marketing, there are only 4 things you need to do in the government. That's it. 4. 1 is a business card. 2 is a government page on your website. Even if you don't have any government contracts yet, you have a page that says government. It's got your DUNS number, your NICS codes, your CAGE code. It talks about how you love teaming with other companies. It has your past performance. There's an outline for that. I'll show an example during Q&A if you want to see it. And so business card, a government page on your website, capability statement, okay? And then what's called an ICS, introduction capability statement, something used with your teaming partners. That's beyond today. So if you have been told, I have a slide for this. I'm going to come back to it. So we'll talk about how you market your collateral, okay? 80% of you, because in general, 80% of companies focus on unqualified opportunities. Okay. Now, Mike touched on, I'm glad I hopped onto Mike's session last hour. He and the audience were talking about focusing on strategic targets and, who do you engage? Well, first, you target those that align with your, obviously with your offerings. I keep saying I'm going to show it to you. That's called the data bank. It's either the beta.sam data bank or it's usaspending.gov. And the only difference between the two systems is usaspending.gov, which is a lot easier to use, includes subcontractor data. So if I'm a subcontractor and the contracting officer puts me in the system, it'll only be in beta SAM. It'll only be in usaspending.gov, not the data bank for beta SAM. If I'm talking Chinese to you, make a note to ask me a question at the end. But that's how you figure who you should be selling to. Okay. Again, propensity, I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now, this is where most small businesses and mid-size and some larges, and because my firm works 70% small business, our clients, 70% small business, and the other 30% are mid-size and large. But even the mid-size large have this problem. They are looking on beta SAM or whatever bid matching system, contract management system, and they spend 80% of their time looking for opportunities, right? 5% positioning with prospects, 10% teaming or responding to a source of sought. But this is the first foot stomp of today's seminar. 80% of your time should be pre-acquisition. 80% of your time should be doing activities in the market that are before the RFP or the RFQ are released by the government. Okay. Now, many of you are going, well, that sounds great, Josh, but how do you do it? I'm going to talk through some of those pieces here in just a moment. Okay. But the first foot stomp is if the majority of your time is simply looking on the government systems, looking for opportunities to bid, pulling them down, and then responding, you're not going to win a lot in the government. Okay. That's the first crazy important point that we got to make. To be clear, when we talk acquisition, pre-acquisition, this is what we're talking. Okay. Pre-acquisition, 80% of your time, you're focused on sources sought, draft solicitations, and actually talking to the government. Okay. The acquisition side, RFPs, RFQs, invitations for bids, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. 80% of your time should be pre-acquisition. Now, if you're not doing any pre-acquisition right now, you're not going to get there overnight. It will take you 3 to 6 months to change your processes and to start doing the right activities. And so don't feel bad. I don't know why. Jenny said that I talk in a little bit of a different way. I have a different mentality. You know why? Because I don't approach government sales from a government perspective. Sure, I understand government. I'm an expert in both federal acquisition, but also business strategy. It's the business side that will make you successful, not just understanding government. So recognize you're not alone. It will take you time to build in your tactics and strategies and daily activities that allow you to focus pre-acquisition. Okay. The other part of it is only 10% of all the opportunities in the market are in fact on beta SAM or in eBuy. Why? Because there's 90% of the opportunities out there, the government either hasn't put it into acquisition yet, or they don't even realize they really need what you do, product or service. So if all you're focused on is acquisition phase, instead of doing the 80% pre-acquisition, all you're going to see is 10% of the market. Now, if you do 80% pre-acquisition, you're now engaging the entire pie. So it is about building relationships. Okay. Let's talk differentiation. Let me see how I'm doing on time. Excellent. Yes, we're talking about prospecting this hour, but it's so what if you have a list of buyers, okay, a list of contacts. I'm going to show you the system in just a minute that you get all that information or some of it. But if you can't communicate your value and you can't properly differentiate, you're like this. You're like with your hand out, begging for money, begging for a contract. Whatever it is you do, you likely have many companies in the market that are your competitors. What's going to separate you? You know, if it's a woman-owned set aside and you're woman-owned, what will every company have as a part of the source selection? They're all woman-owned. Your status means nothing at that point, right? So understand how to properly differentiate. You have direct, indirect, balancing. These three categories is how I train companies, okay, and how I work with them. Direct, that's the easy part. And almost all of us do this, right? It's our capability. It should be your value, though, not just your capability or service. You talk your past performance. You have key personnel. Maybe you have a PhD on staff. Who your current customers are, teaming partners, certifications, blah, blah, blah. That's easy. Indirect is a little harder. It takes time, trust, right? Agility, flexibility, your reputation. But you should try to work those in. And then the real reason I'm showing you the slide now is because of the balancing. These are what balance you out. They don't make you really any more competitive. And I'll stand by that, right? Whether it is ISO certifications, whether it is CMMI, if you're technology, whether it is a socioeconomic status, SBA 8A certified, VA, veteran or service disabled, etc. They just balance you out. You're not going to win contracts because of it. Now, why? And again, why? Because when you bid on a set aside, what will every other company bidding have? They all have the exact same status as you. So if you can't communicate your value, you're not going to win anyway. So balancing differentiators, if I can convince just one of you of why your status is not going to win you a contract on this session, I will have succeeded today. Now, one side note here. For those of you that are 8A and you go, well, Josh, we can get sole sourced up to 4.5 million or whatever the number is. Yeah, sure you can. But if you can't convince the government of the value that you provide based on quantifiable and qualifiable metrics, numbers, percentages, you're never going to get a sole source. Again, your status simply balances you in the market. So for all of you who have been told, oh, you got to put your status front and center. You got to put your certifications at the top of your CAPE statement and on the top of your website. No, that doesn't make smart business sense. Okay. Because what are you telling me? What are you telling the market? You're saying the value of my company is that I'm a minority, that I'm Black or Hispanic. The value of my company is that I'm a woman or I'm a veteran or I live in a hub zone. Now, when I say it like that, you sort of chuckle and you go, yeah, that sounds pretty obnoxious. Absolutely is. That's not your value. All right. I really went down the rabbit hole on that one. Capability statement. When we talk about positioning for prospecting, we need to touch on this. It is your baseline. Okay. It should be on your website. Yes, it'll be generic, but it needs to be on your website. You should tailor it for every meeting. Okay. And you tailor for your teaming partners. Now, 2 items. First, I am going to make a recommendation that goes against the regulations. It is the only thing ever of all the hundreds, thousands of tactics, strategies that I help companies with. This is the only one that sort of violates the rules. Okay. And that is you need to have logos in your marketing, on your website, in your capability statement. and in your proposals. Okay. Now, there are organizations out there, both government and commercial, right? Profit and nonprofit, that go, you're not allowed to use federal agency logos. They're correct. You're supposed to have, and of course, hey, welcome to COVID and working from home. I've got somebody working on the yard out there. So if you hear the lawnmower, just ignore it. You're supposed to have permission from the public affairs office, right? The media department, to use those logos. What I'm telling you is all the smalls, disregard it. Okay. Are you breaking a rule? Yeah, you're breaking a rule. But if I'm a potential partner, or if I'm a government prospect and I'm looking at your capability statement, you've got 6 seconds. That's the standard. Nobody's going to look at your, I don't care how hard you worked on it. 6 seconds is the initial look. In those 6 seconds, you must convince me that you are a mature, capable business that has the breadth and depth of what you sell. Okay. So use the logos. If you don't want to use them, that's fine. But I'm telling you, as a small business, you'll want to use them. The other part is, what does everybody tell you, right? Whether it's the nonprofits, for-profits, your small business specialists, counselors, rabbis, mentors, coaches, consultants, whatever, right? They all say, you got to take, a pack of your capability statements to the conference. When you go to a meeting with a prospect, meeting with a teaming partner, always provide a copy. I'm telling you right now, that doesn't make smart business sense. What you do is you provide. If I walked into a meeting with a prospect with a government, okay, and I have, and they go, "Oh, hey, Josh, do you have a copy of your capability statement?" My answer is always, "I sure do, but I'll send you a digital copy after the meeting." Okay, thanks, Josh. The reality is 99% of the paper copies go in the circular file anyway, right? The other thing is, you want to, let's say I'm talking to the government, and over 45 minutes to an hour, I learn what the government is really looking for right now. When I look at my capability statement, it's going to have those items, but maybe they're at the bottom of my service list. Maybe I don't even talk about those items because I think they're minor, and I don't talk about them in the overview of the company. It takes me 5 minutes after the meeting to quickly update my capability statement, right? Bring those items to the top. In the overview, say, we specialize in these 2 things, maybe update the differentiators and send it. Now, when the government gets it, or a teaming partner gets it, they go, oh, not only do they do what we're looking for, this is exactly what they do. Folks, it's marketing. It's perception. Okay. So I recommend you don't carry around copies. Even if you're going to, I call it speed dating, those matchmaking sessions that they have at conferences that are also done virtually. You see, you'll never call them matchmaking again. You're going to always call them speed dating. Just make sure you attribute it to me. Just kidding. All you take to those is your business card. That's it. Hey, I got to have a copy of your CAPE statement. I'll send it to you digitally. If you don't communicate your value on your CAPE statement, okay, if all you say is, we sell these products, we sell these services, instead of saying, these are the numbers, the percentages, the qualifiable, quantifiable metrics. This is all you're doing when you're going into a prospecting meeting. We're a great company. Hey, we're small business. You have to do business with us. This is a waste. Okay. It's a total waste. So when you look at your capability statement, I want you to ask yourself, do I see numbers? Do I see percentages? Do I see metrics? Do I see we help this organization, improve speed of or increase speed of access to the enterprise if you're an IT company by 12%. We decreased the amount by 85%. How fast the government can take this data and create a report. whatever products or services you sell, what value are they really providing? Okay. So if I meet you, let's say we're one-on-one and I go, hey, Janet, nice to meet you. What do you do? Don't simply tell me what you sell. Okay. Don't tell me you're small. Don't tell me you're minority or woman or veteran owned. Okay. Now, some of you are going, that's great, Josh. So what do I say? What do I do? Well, it's not what you sell and it's not your status, right? It's your value. Now, I'm going to give you this is a real world example. It's a company we worked with. And she called me up and she said, Josh, I've spent 2 months getting coordinating a meeting with the senior contracting officer at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Not just one of the contracting officers, like the director of the acquisition division. And I said, wow, good job. And I said, how'd you do it? And she goes, well, a colleague that's in another company and we talked and she helped set me up, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, but how do I approach that meeting? And I said, well, again, don't talk about you having any status whatsoever. Simply walk in, give a 45-second pitch and say, here's the value of what we do. Here's who we've done it for, right? And this is what we specialize in. And so we worked with her, I don't know, about an hour or so. And she went into this meeting and she gave her quick pitch and then she controlled the meeting and she was asking questions. And about 45 minutes in, the senior contracting officer said, all right, hold on, time out. Love what I'm hearing. You guys have some decent past performance. You're very confident, love it. Now you're small, right? If I recall, do you have any other statuses? And she said, yeah, we're small. We're woman owned. We're 8A. We're Native American. So, I mean, we've got some statuses. And the contracting officer leaned forward in his chair and he goes, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you introduce yourself as, hi, we're, a woman-owned 8A Native American small business that does X, Y, Z, because we have to do business with companies like yours. Didn't you know there's a 5% requirement for 8A, 5% for woman-owned, And this is, all of you can learn from this and use this. She leaned forward and she said to him, that is not who we are. And that is not the value that we provide. That is not who we are. And that is not the value that we provide. And that contracting officer chuckled. He leaned back in his chair and he said, I think that's one of the best responses I have ever heard. Why? Because small businesses are trained to lead with their status or they're small. And I'm telling you right now, you should not be doing that. Okay. So let's now briefly talk about who buys what you sell. First, I want to show you some results based on the various small and socioeconomic statuses. Between 2019 and 2020, first of all, from like 2015 to 2019, the numbers were all going up. Okay. That means in 19, 83% of the federal agencies tracked by the SBA met their small business goals. 63% of the agencies hit their 8A, et cetera. Okay. Obviously, FY 2020, last year, it obviously went down because of COVID, right? But it's good to see. Let's say, for example, you are a woman-owned small business. If I had look at the graph, if I had to decide between two opportunities to engage or two agencies to target, I'd probably pick Department of Commerce at 12% over the Department of Energy at 0.9% or HUD at 4.9. Now, let me be very clear here. Look at 8A for DOD. 3.43%. 3.43%. You may go, oh, they didn't hit their numbers. you got to take this with a grain of salt, because that 3.4% is billions of dollars. It's billions of dollars, right? So they may not have hit their 5%, but they still made, sold billion, procured billions through 8A. But you should be aware of this. It may flavor a decision you make between two different opportunities or agencies to target. For 2020, this is, I just broke this down. You guys will be able to get the slides after. Listen to that lawnmower. Awesome. Love lawnmowers. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the slide, but in general, you can see based on your status, who's hitting numbers and who's not. And then this is just for small business, all years. Again, yeah, you can download this and take a look at it. Now, before we get in, we're a couple of the final pieces here, but I want to talk about beta.sam's data bank. Okay. Now, I'm going to, real quick here, I'm going to show you what I am talking about. Jenny, can you see my internet browser?
I can see your Google. Yes.
All right. Excellent. So folks, I'm going to quickly log into Beta Sam, just like all of you would be logging in. And see, just like all of you, I have to do that password as well. Let's do 018612. All right. Many of you are not even familiar with this. You may have seen it, but you're not sure. If you click your three bars here, here's a data bank. And when you go into the data bank, ad hoc, I'm going to just really quickly go through it. This is where I'm going to show you all this data is coming from. Okay. So this company came to us and said, hey, we need a couple of years of data. We need to figure out who we're going to sell to and where we're going to target and where we're going to grow. And we operate under 13 codes, NAICS codes. And we ended up pulling 90,000 contract actions over these 3 years. Okay. And they said, hey, we need to know, should we be growing into Missouri, Tennessee, Kansas? Should we be doing environmental versus just construction? And so we ran all these numbers. Now, the first place you can do it is usaspending.gov. This is user friendly, but it doesn't have all the data that Beta Sam has. Okay. It's only got about 70% of the fields are pulled in. So yes, it's easier. It'll likely be very useful for you. If you're not currently using USA Spend, you should be, right? But you do need to learn how to use the data bank in Beta Sam. So anyway, USA Spend, you definitely need to use this. I just showed you this, right? You can either just do the contract data, right? Pull that drop down in Beta Sam and type what you're looking for. But that is so unhelpful, non-helpful, unhelpful, ill-helpful. What other words can I make up? It's not very helpful. Okay. And so instead of that, because this is what you get. You get this list of 475,000 results. It's like, this does me no good. Okay. So instead, log in, go to the data bank, do an ad hoc award report. And from that, I'm not going to show you how to do all this today, but I want you to know that you need to do it here. You create this query. And you're going to get hundreds of thousands to millions of fields of data. Okay. And it is crazy extensive, the amount of information you'll get. For all of you that have paid other companies to do this for you, and there are companies out there, this is what they do. Well, for $5,000, for $10,000, we're going to show you all the agencies that you should be selling to. And here's the contact info. Folks, it's all free information. You need to learn to do it yourself. Don't pay for it. Okay. So from that, you'll have to learn how to do pivot tables. I'm going to show you, there's an hour and a half training video, hour and a half of how you set up the query, pull all the data. And it's part of the federal access platform. At the end of this, I'm going to show you how to access it. Okay. But you're going to do pivot tables. By the way, just on this slide, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. You see the two highlighted codes, Whiskey 58RGZ and 91278. Those are contracting office ID codes. In other words, every single contract is tied to a city and state based on this code. Okay. Now, some of you may already know this, but I'll bet a lot don't. If you look at any of the solicitations in Beta SAM or anywhere for that matter, the first 6 characters of the solicitation number, the RFQ number, the first 6 digits is that contracting office ID. Therefore, you can use that code, go into this database and go, I want to see all the contracts awarded last 3 years for what I sell. And then you can see who's been winning those contracts and a lot of other information. Okay. We're getting into the advanced. All right. You should be able to tell based on running this data mine of these NAICS codes we looked at, which ones had the most, right? Contract actions and money. Obviously, engineering services was hands down number 1. We also looked at, okay, across the board, who should they be targeting? Now, there's pluses next to all these major agencies. If I were to click those pluses, it show all the subordinates. In the last session, right, when Mike was talking to you about, hey, you target a couple of agencies, during the year strategically, build relationships. You're not going to just pick the Army. You're going to pick 1 or 2 organizations, elements, subordinate commands within the Army. Okay. All of you focus on NAICS codes. Depending on your industry, PSC codes, product service codes, may be a better use of your search capabilities in Beta SAM. Maybe you should be looking by PSC codes. Why? Because they're more granular. NAICS codes normally have multiple PSC codes. Figure out which PSC code you are actually operating under. And then you can use that data bank, all that data to go, don't search by my NAICS codes. Search by my PSC because it's more granular and I'll get more actionable and applicable data for what I sell. Okay. I just mentioned how you break out, right? You can see here, depending on the agency, it'll break it down. All of this you should be able to do yourself. We'll talk about that training video at the end. I just pulled this out because it's really cool. Of the 120 odd fields that I recommend you put into the system, it's in the video. One of the fields is, hey, for every contract that was awarded, how many bids did the government receive? What a crazy, awesome data point to have. You may go, okay, I am going to bid on this opportunity. Now, this opportunity, the solicitation number is whatever. In the first 6 digits, I know where the contracting office ID code. I'm going to take that code, put it into the data bank and go, show me all the contracts awarded out of this office for my NAICS code or PSC code over the last 3 years. And then I want to see how many bids they're getting. I want to see how many companies I'm probably competing against. What a great point of information. Anyway, you can see, you can do, type of contract, sourcing, this company didn't want to go to Texas. We showed them that they're twice as much value there as Missouri. This company ended up opening their next office in Texas and not Missouri or Tennessee. Now, I am doing excellent on time here. Prospecting methods. All right, so believe it or not, all of that was a setup for us to talk about how do you really prospect? Because I could have just given you this slide and talked through it for an hour, but those other pieces are necessary. How do you differentiate? Are you communicating your value with metrics? Are you, is your value that you're woman owned, or is it your value, the value you provide based on your product service? All of that is critical because it all flows into here. Now, for those of you that are brand spanking new to government contracting, or those of you that have been doing this for a couple of years, you're going to find that everybody has an opinion. Okay. I was military, so I'll say it's like everybody's got a fourth point of contact. Fourth point of contact's your butt, because that's what you land on when you're jumping on a plane. So, opinions are like fourth points of contact. You're going to be told all of this. Hey, to win a government contract, you have to do this. You have to do that. All of those are in here. What I'm going to show you is which ones really work and which ones are a waste of time, and what the 3 things you need to do. And if you do them and you use the right tactics and strategies, you will win contracts. Okay. Number 1 is weak. Government systems. Government systems. So whether it is SAM, whether it is eBuy, DIBS if you sell products, or any other system, if all you're doing, right, that 80% rule, if all you're doing is looking for opportunities on these systems and bidding on them cold, that's pretty weak in terms of prospecting. Bid matching systems, services, right? Whether it's the PTAC system, whether it is, you pay for a system, those are weak, right? Just because you can find opportunities doesn't mean you're properly positioned for them. If all you do is respond to RFPs, weak. Marketing and advertising. By the way, don't mass email the government. Don't do mass email campaigns. You'll blacklist yourself. Okay. There are a lot of folks out there that say, with the government, bottom line, marketing and advertising for marketing things, right? Business card, government page, website, business card, landing page, capability statement, ICS. That's it. Don't pay for billboards outside of some military base. Don't fall for all the marketing gimmicks that a lot of companies out there push. Social media, Mike talked this last session as well. LinkedIn, you got to have a strong LinkedIn profile. And 70% of the government is on LinkedIn. I mean, 70% of contracting officers, 70% of buyers, 70% of program managers. If you're not using LinkedIn to help identify prospects and contacts, you should be. Okay. Government directories. There's a lot of directories out there. Hey, some are called yellow pages or what have you. And, for $400, you get online access or whatever. Those systems have the 4-star generals and the directors of the contracting, the senior executive service folks, the SESs. Those are not the folks you're going to be talking to in general. So don't spend money on government directories. Okay. By the way, it's all free. Freedom of Information Act. Not going to go into crazy detail on it. It's valuable. It can be useful, but that's the weak side. Strong side. Everybody should engage their local PTAC, their SBDC, their VBOX, etc. Okay. In general, people say, well, Josh, what's the difference between, the nonprofits, for-profits? And I can't answer for all of them. In general, what my company, my folks, my team, we start where those nonprofits pretty much finish, right? So if you don't know how to spell government, if you don't have an account in SAM and all those other pieces, don't be paying folks like us to do that. Go to your local PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and have them help you. They're funded to do that. Strong. Yes, you need to use SAM, USA Spending for data. Small business offices. Yes, it's strong. OSBP, Office Small Business Programs. That's what the Department of Defense calls their small business folks. OSDBU, Office Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, the OSDBU. I love saying that word, OSDBU. Say it with me, OSDBU. I'm running out of time. All right, OSDBU. That's federal agencies, okay? Bear in mind this. OSDBUs, OSBPs, small business offices are a microcosm of society. Some are really, really good at what they do, and others are not so good at what they do. And so, some of you have had horror stories like, God, they were useless. Others, oh my God. I mean, I've got one client, the small business rep at the National Science Foundation, NSF, said, you are not to talk to the government around my back. I am your primary POC, and I'm going to facilitate for you. And by God, she did. She got him a sole source. She got him a presentation, a capabilities presentation. It was incredible. Okay. Some are good, some are not so good. Trade shows. When COVID lifts, you need to identify which trade shows you need to be attending. I know I'm running long here, Jenny. Bear with me. Professional agency forecasts. Oh, by the way, trade shows. If you're technology, you should be AFCEA membership association, AFCEA. If you are architecture, engineering, construction, you should be SAME, Society of American Military Engineers. Running out of time, so I'm going to keep moving. Agency forecasts. They are either totally useless for your company or they'll provide a little bit of value. Okay. So look at all, and there's a website for all the agencies and their forecasts. Take a quick look. They only do it once a year, sometimes twice a year. It's strong, but look and see if it provides anything. Now, all of you are looking at these going, yeah, we do pretty much all of these. There are three core things if you want to succeed in the government space. You must have an incredibly strong teaming strategy. 90% of small businesses get their first 3 or 4 contracts as a subcontractor, okay, as a sub. And a strong teaming strategy will increase the number of opportunities in your pipeline by over 400%. So that's number one. You got to have a really strong teaming strategy. Number two, you got to get away from your computer. Get out of your chair, pick up the phone, talk to the government, set meetings. It's hard with COVID right now. I get that. But when COVID lifts, actually have meetings. And number three, spend your time pre-acquisition. 80% of your time responding to sources soughts, making calls, engaging your strategic targets. Everything flows into these. But if you say to yourself after this seminar today, this session, I need to make sure these three are really locked in. You do that, you're going to take your company, start your company on a new path. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go through this because of time. Okay. So what did we learn today? Well, common challenges you're going to have. We talked acquisition versus pre, communicating differentiation and value, propensity, the systems you're going to use, business intel. Not really, because I skipped that part. Now, before we go to Q&A, if I even have time, and if I don't, I'm going to try to hijack it and see. I'll ask Jenny what we can do. Podcast game changers for government contractors. 100,000 downloads. Anywhere you hear podcasts, just search for Game Changers for Government. That's free. Books. The Insider's Guide Winning Government Contracts it's my book, is the #1 book in the nation for government contractors. It's on Amazon. And then we have a whole bunch of other books you may want to take a look at. Bottom line, these are the resources that we're offering. The books, they're $19, whatever they are on Amazon. Podcast is free. Federal access. Mike mentioned it last session. We're giving a 50% discount for all the GovCon Summit folks that first month, and it's $29 to get in. Hundreds of tactics, strategies, templates, everything, marketing, prospecting, sales, teaming, and the 1.5-hour video that will save you $5,000 trying to pay somebody else to do it, of how to use the data bank. is built into FA. Okay. Over 1,000 companies use our resources. Okay. With that, Jenny, I really blew my time. Am I able to take Q&A, or do I need to take?
Absolutely. You're taking Q&A. Nobody's going to leave this session. I even texted people in the middle and said, you got to get on here. You got to get on here now.
Okay.
So let's go to the gallery and let's take off your screen. So there we go. Stop participant sharing.
All right. So
there we go.
All right. So for those, let's see here. Mike Lejeune, are you still in here?
I don't see him.
No,
I don't see him. But
skipped.
I'll be Michael. What would you like me to do? I just did post your federal access discount code.
That's all I was asking. All right. So let's go into the Q&A.
All right. Well, first off, I could list all the accolades, but does anybody have any questions? You could just raise your hand or whatever. But I think the main thing that I learned from you is when you showed the chart, tell me that everything on the right-hand side was a total waste of time and everything on the left was kind of good. That's where the real value is, because I've been asking people, how do you get teaming partners? And I think that's one of the things that people struggle with so much, because every time I say, well, go talk to so-and-so, they're like, well, so-and-so is not interested because they don't know who I am.
Well,
how do you get over that?
Yeah, well, and the reason why they're not interested, the reason why, potential teaming partners or primes don't call you back, don't respond to your emails, and don't put you on the team is because you haven't communicated enough value. Okay. They're being approached by a dozen companies that all do what you do. So, instead of saying, here, let me pull an example. Instead of saying, we've done, as I was talking this earlier today, we do surveys. We help organizations survey their end users in order to make better decisions, whatever it may be. And, I go to some prime and I say, hey, we're in the business of helping, of providing surveys. That's our primary line. We do surveys, we do XYZ. And the prime is going to be like, that's great. That's great. And you go, oh, we've been around for a long time. That's great. Everybody's got it. We have great past performance. Yeah, that's great. Everybody does. If instead I approach and I go, and I'm just making this up out of the blue. Hey, Prime, my name is Josh Frank. I'm with RSM Federal. We're in the business of helping organizations streamline and accelerate their decision cycle through use of employee surveys or end user surveys. We've been doing this for 10 years. Again, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. We've been doing this for 10 years. We have supported over 200 organizations, of which 25 are Fortune 500. And of those organizations, we have augmented, interviewed, surveyed more than 3 million individuals that end up supporting organizations with in excess of 8.5 million end users. And we have found that our solutions increased, decreased, improved by this percent, that percent, this percent. Do you see the difference? So the ability to communicate your value, okay, the ability to communicate your value will help you get selected by primes. And one final, it's a small pitch, but if you want to understand how to do that process yourself, The Insider's Guide to Winning Government Contracts on Amazon. There is an entire huge chapter that walks you through how to review your contracts, your experience, your past performance, so that you can figure out what those metrics are. Great question.
Well, another thing that you mentioned is something about 400%, and I couldn't type fast enough to catch it. 400% sounded like, oh my gosh, whatever I'm doing, if it could give me 20% improvement, I should write that down. What's 400%?
Ask that one more time.
So there was a part in your presentation, and I think it was after the red light, red, yellow, and green stoplight. Mm-hmm. And it was about 400%. And I think you said there were people improve their results by 400%, which is huge.
So yeah, that 400% is the number of opportunities in your pipeline. So for example, if you've got, whatever number, the cool thing about a strong programmatic teaming strategy is that you don't write the proposal when you are the subcontractor in general, right? Well, don't you want to be on as many teams as you can where you don't have to spend the time, the money, the energy writing the proposal yourself, but you're on a team. And if they win, you get 20% of the work. Here you get 30% of the work. So having again, that's one of those three, right? Strong teaming strategy, programmatic teaming strategy. If you increase that alone, Jenny, you can quadruple the number of opportunities that you have an opportunity of winning in any given year.
Well, I think you're really right about that because it's such a heavy lift to be a prime contractor and you really want to get momentum from it. The other thing that people were talking about earlier is, well, how do I get past performance if I don't prime? And the suggestion that came back was with several people is to say, go after some state and local to get your past performance proof. What are your thoughts?
Yes and no. Yes. Excuse me. Yes, go after state and local if in fact you're competitive. But to be very clear, your work as a subcontractor is directly applicable, is direct past performance. If you were to win if you were to be on 3 teams as a subcontractor and you perform the work and you decide to go after your own contract, you want to prime, you can absolutely use that past performance as a sub, as direct past performance in your proposal. So,
because I thought that you had to have permission from the prime to do that.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Nope.
Is that just under CPARs or something?
Not all subs are going to get into CPARs. It's a little unusual. It's normally reserved for the primes. I have had people that said, okay, well, I'm not in CPARs because I've done all this sub work. Well, guess what? It'd be the same if you did state and local. None of that's going into CPARs, right? CPARs is a federal.
Good point. That's the kind of brilliance we're looking for. So here's one. I don't know if Stephanie Johnson is actively listening or not, but Stephanie is an expert in accounting and auditing. And she got her 8A and she's going after some of this audit work with FEMA and different things. And it seems like that would be a perfect example of somebody that could use your data bank tools to find exactly the kind of work that she could use to grow, because it's really about going after something you're good at and you're the best in the world at, right?
Yes.
Because she's not going to walk in and say I'm a woman-owned 8A or any of that type of stuff. She's going to say, I've done FEMA audits for the last 18 years and this and that. And I see that you've got some audit work coming up. I want to talk to you about developing that relationship and find out what might be coming up, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, who else has some questions? Alan, Elliot, I've been tagging you all day. What's on your mind? He must be off.
I'm just posting in the group chat that I had a conversation with Michael June a few weeks ago, and he just gave me a point of contact just off the top of his head. Hey, give this guy a call. So I did that. I reached out to him and said, hey, Michael June told me to reach out to you. We set up some time. We got on a conversation and really had a lot of synergy. He gave me a couple go-dos. Once I finished those, he's talking about putting me on a subcontract to support that company and training other businesses for CMMC. So I've seen this guy before, right? I've seen stuff he posts, but without that introduction from Mike, I mean, I wouldn't even be this close to a teaming agreement, you know? So I just echo what these guys are saying. I mean, it's legit, and it's helped me in just these 2-3 weeks that I've been using it.
Thank you. Hey, by the way, Jenny, do we have any Josh for president yet in the comments?
Oh, no, but people are asking me where they can order the picture I've got, in my room of Josh. Josh Frank is my superhero. It's the one with the Captain America suit.
All right, I'm gonna have to Photoshop that. But anyway, All right. So what other questions do we have, Jenny?
Let's see. I guess Christy Pittman said it's all about relationships. And Christy, if you could tell Josh a little bit about what you're doing, because you work at a PTAC, right, Christy?
Do I know Christy?
Well, she was at this event in the past. Let's see if she'll come on.
I'm here. Hi. Hi, everybody. So yes, Josh, fantastic. Fantastic. And I attended an AP Tech conference last week, and I can't remember who it was. They recommended your course on Govology regarding the data bank, and I took it, and it's fabulous. So I recommend, it's a shameless plug for Govology. People just go out and just take the course, because it was it just opened my eyes to how you can get the data for free, and we're all about that, right? How do we
Thank
how do we
you.
tell our clients to get this access to free information that helps them to be successful? So yeah, great presentation though. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think another big key that in the notes that I was taking as we were talking is there are things where you think that somebody else knows more about the kind of work your company is going to do, but really it's up to the executives of the company to say, what do I want to go after? And when you're paying a third party to do it, they do a crappy job or they do a great job, you don't have that information available to yourself anymore. And you're not building skills. And that's really what it takes to be able to grow in government contracting, is conquer it yourself first and then hire somebody and give them some direction. What are your thoughts on that, Josh?
Yes, you are correct. And I inferred this earlier, you know, at least in terms of the data bank and the data and the information, you know, if somebody else does that for you, you don't have the intellectual capital, you're not growing, there's no growth, there's no, you know, improvement of figuring out how to do it yourself. And so, yes. Again, yeah, absolutely. You want to watch that video. So yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. And Lindsay was asking where the videos are, and they're on RSM Federal, which is the website that Josh Frank and Michael Lejeune have. And it's just an amazing knowledge base of so much. And every time that I go in there, I find something that like just blows me away, and things that really test all of my perceptions and thoughts. So just as we wrap up, Josh, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that. Oh, he's circling the code, 50% off. There. You wouldn't believe what's back there. It's like, this is exactly why we put this whole thing together, because when people would come to me and say, Jenny, how can I be more successful in government contracting? I'd say, well, it's not a pricing issue. It's always a sales issue. And I see a hand raised from Ashley Gillis. Ashley. Unmute and come on.
Sorry about that. Josh, thank you so much. This is absolutely fabulous. I have a question around seeking partners and subcontracting. Mm-hmm. So I am very specialized in what I do, and it is developing curriculum for public health emergency management, i.e. pandemics and epidemics. I've been working with CDC for 4 years and the WHO to develop this curriculum. And outside of FEMA in the United States, and outside, actually, even with the World Health Organization, our curriculum is the best. It's the best. So how do I see, it's so specialized. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? And how do I go about seeking partners? Because I do have a lot of experience outside of this, but I would say where I'm an expert.
So hold on one second here. Let me stop the share. Stop the share. So, all right. Being niched is a good thing. Okay. Too many small businesses try to be the jack of all trades and are unable to communicate their value because there's just too many things. The fact that you have a niche and you know it is an incredibly good thing for an entrepreneur or small business owner. That being said, you need to be a go-to. You need to be a go-to for all those organizations that the government that require these type of services, and all the companies that have had these type of contracts, the data bank is by far the number one first stop for you. Okay. Crazy, crazy important. Because you can identify either through, hopefully NAICS code or PSC code. If what you do is so niche that it sort of falls under a larger umbrella of a code, then we do keywords. Okay. And then because there is a field within the data bank that is called description of requirement. It's not mandatory field, but if there were certain, studies or et cetera, whatever you do, identified by keyword, they'd all come up. So your first step is to use the data bank. And you may have to do it a couple of times to figure out how to best do it, but use the data bank to find out the agencies, commands. And guess what? When you figure it out, oh, by the way, there's going to be emails of who last updated, approved, or modified that contract action. Look that name up in Beta SAM as a keyword, find that person's phone number in an active opportunity, call them up and say, hey, listen, I'm not calling about anything currently in acquisition, but this is what I do. What do you recommend? And they may go, well, we have some stuff coming up in a couple of months, be on the lookout. Or you may go, what companies do you work with today? Well, we work with 3 primarily. Boom. Who are they? And then you reach out to them. But it all starts with that initial data dump and data mine that you get out of beta.sam. And I would say to you, watch the video. Okay. Watch that video, set your system up, try to do it yourself. And then you'll know if you need more help. But that's the easiest, fastest way to start what you just asked about. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And it really builds my confidence because I was actually sort of unsure about the whole niche thing. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, Josh. So I did some research and I went out and looked at all the CDC contracts and identified different things. And I thought, well, these people are working overseas. This is global and everything else. And I made a few calls to different ones and they were like, I'm sorry, but I have this giant contract. Why in the world would I give you a piece of it? The other thing that we believe is there's a tendency of CDC to only award to 8A. And I just don't know if that's true or false and how to prove it. But, it's like, I think that everybody runs into that point where, well, I went down that rabbit hole. I wonder what else. And I guess what it tells me is there are times where you do some work yourself. And if you're not getting the results, that's when you would definitely want to talk to somebody and say, can you do some kind of market analysis for me and say whether we can do something with this? I want to just say that Ashley is brilliant.
Ashley who?
Gillis. She's the one that just asked the question.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God, you're killing me, Jenny.
I know, but you bought me dinner the other night, so.
Oh, there's a quid pro quo happening in our Q&A. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, that's cool. That's cool. I'm not against paying $20 for stage questions, but anyway, whether or not, CDC is primarily 8A or whatever, that is an easy freaking question to answer. You just run all contract actions out of CDC over the last fiscal year across, any specific NAICS code. And then there's a field that you can filter by, and it'll tell you exactly what it is, right? You don't know what you don't know. And there's a difference. I often tell people, because I'm known as the professor of government sales. I'm an educator, as a coach. The difference between a job and an occupation is lifelong learning. Okay. So you're going to learn things. You're not going to, everything that I covered in the session today, you're not going to master this or even get it in place in 30 days. It'll take you 6 to 12 months to properly do it. Just do a piece at a time. Slowly improve your pieces. And if you're desperate, that comes through, folks. If you are desperate because you have people sitting on the bench or you're desperate for cash flow, that comes out in your body language and your tone of voice, everything. Make sure you recognize it and work on that. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, well, that's a great point, because my next thing was to say, well, it's BAE and it's not BAE, it's Booz Allen and Deloitte and those things. And it's like you look on the list for those companies as to, well, I would not have any idea who to call at those big companies. But do you just start calling?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Before you call any of the large system integrators, right? The General Dynamics, Boozes, CACIs, Lockheeds, SAICs, all of them. You are like 1,000 other small businesses trying to reach out to them. So why the hell am I going to work with you? Okay. Because you've got past performance just like everybody else. I mean, I already walked through this. If you're able to communicate your value, quantifiable, qualifiable numbers, metrics, percentages, and you bring quid pro quo, right? I mean, the one thing that all the organizations and coaches will tell you is you got to bring something to the table. So those large companies, they can't prime small business set-asides or other set-asides. So you come to them, you say, look, we have great past performance. It's going to make you more competitive. And we need you to backbone this one opportunity that we're going to be priming. You got to have a strategy when you call them. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could go on forever on this. This is a whole session unto itself. But the large companies, large primes, large SIs, they are not going to work with you. You're definitely not going to get to a decision maker unless you can communicate the value of the products or services you provide. Okay. And so if you're having trouble with that, obviously federal access and the link, that discount code, that'll get you in and get all our stuff. But the Insider's Guide teaches you those strategies. Okay. The book on Amazon. So, yeah, it's not hard, but you need to learn how to do it the first time. Right. And there are plenty of resources here that we can help you.
All right. Well, thanks. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Do we have any Josh for president yet? I've been waiting for that.
Alan, he's kind of desperate. Can you post something on that real quick?
You're not. Now you're begging for me. No, this actually came from Lee over at the Catalyst. Somebody, I just thought it was funny as all get out. So
there it is. There it is. Stephanie Johnson stepped right up.
I want to know if Josh has my painting.
Hold on.
Oh, Emily, I'm so glad you asked that question.
So hold on. It is not framed yet.
That's okay.
But I want to show everybody Emily Harmon. She painted this. And I was the first one to demand it on social media, on LinkedIn. And for those of you who don't know, Emily, who runs the Onward podcast and the Onward movement, and is former director of small business for Department of the Navy, blah, 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 all those great things.
I'm an artist.
She is an artist. And
you guys can commission me. Yeah.
So here's the deal. If anybody wants a copy of this for a low price of $10.99, I will copy it for you.
But I painted that day on the day that the Capitol was attacked too. It was on January 6th. And so that's why it means something. It was on the day of the insurrection. So it was like, we all need love. I paint that.
Oh, absolutely.
That heart says January 6th right there. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, so Jenny, I will simply close up and say, I'd like to thank everybody that was here for my session. If you have questions, contact me at contact@RSM Federal. And don't forget the book and FA for that video. And with that, back to you, Jenny.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here today.